Hey everybody, I'm CJ, and it wasn't very long ago at this point that Kanye West basically bagged on the Disney Star Wars sequel trilogy, and he did it using criteria that, let's face it, you just don't see very many public figures bringing up. For a lot of famous people, public figures, celebrities, the marching order appears to be Disney Star Wars is brilliant. Every single movie was more brilliant than what came before. The entire saga, everything that Disney did with Star Wars, is brilliance stacked up on top of brilliance, with brilliance in between and brilliance on top. And Kanye West is clearly not interested in playing that game. He was on Rogan, and this article on Bounding into Comics basically it it basically summarizes the relevant points of what it is that Kanye West said. The article says the critically acclaimed rapper went on to express his disbelief that some fans said George Lucas's prequels were worse than the corporate-made Disney Star Wars, and pointed to the canon-defining events of Revenge of the Sith as an example of the prequel trilogy's importance and quality. I'm going to put the thing on pause and say, guys, show me where he's wrong. Like a lot of people, I've got sort of a, we'll say, complicated relationship with the prequels. There's a lot of brilliance in there. I'll be the first to admit it. There are a lot of good ideas going on in the prequels. The basically portraying the Jedi Order as a bunch of bureaucratic assholes. Like when you think about it, that's a really brave, creative choice that Lucas made because for a lot of fans, the temptation would have been there to depict the Jedi as a bunch of saints, and they they really did their best for the Republic. They did everything they could for the people, and their one crime is that they loved the Republic too much, and the Emperor used that against them, and they were betrayed. That's really not what happens in the prequels. Like I say, the Jedi, the Jedi Order, and one might say especially the Jedi Council, and then on top of that, perhaps most specifically, Yoda and Mace Windu are both a bunch of jerks. they they basically were the architects of their own demise. And there is an argument that to some degree or another, Order 66 was what the Jedi had coming to them. And that's a really brave, creative decision for Lucas to make. I don't think there is a fan in a thousand that would have been willing to take that kind of creative risk. But without hesitation, Lucas took that risk. And so I'm not saying that you have to love every single aspect of the prequels, that you have to love the dialogue or you have to love Jar Jar or any of that stuff. I'm just asking you to acknowledge that Lucas very rarely took the easy way out with making those movies. I mean, one could argue that the entirety of The Phantom Menace is Lucas taking the easy way out. But starting in Attack of the Clones and then just going right on through from there, the great majority of creative decisions that Lucas made, they they were ballsy, they were risky. You really do take a serious chance of losing the audience, or at least losing the audience's sympathy, or turning the hardcore fan base against you, which somewhat he did anyway, but for different reasons. And you compare all of that to, we'll just use The Force Awakens as our comparison. You take all of that and then you compare it to The Force Awakens, where what creative risk did they really take? Because I'm really not thinking of all that many. And what few creative risks they did take. I mean, does anybody believe that was the right idea? Does anybody believe that was the right thing to do? It doesn't seem like it. And so Kanye West, presidential hopeful, I guess I have to say, Kanye West, he's got a point. There's no arguing the fact that at their core, the prequels were made by an independent filmmaker who maybe he wasn't as lean and hungry as he was back in the 70s, but he still had creative risks that he wanted to take and he still had stories that he wanted to tell. And for me, it's not open to debate that the prequels are far superior to the sequels. In other words, the episodes 1 through 3 are infinitely better than episodes 7 through 9. It's just for me there's just no argument to the contrary. There's nothing you can say that is persuasive that somehow Disney made better films than latter day George Lucas. I mean, I'm prepared to believe a lot of things. I cannot believe that. So anyway, getting back to the article, or rather the article says, George Lucas's prequels were worse than and pointed to the canon-defining events of Revenge of the Sith as an example of the prequel trilogy's importance and quality. West is quoted as saying, "We saw how Darth Vader was made. Like, I watched that 10 times during COVID. Don't jump, Anakin. I've got the high ground." West's love of the Star Wars prequels, particularly the above mentioned duel of the fates between Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, is no secret, with the rapper making references to this moment in two different songs, and we don't really need to get too much into that. The point of it is, I don't. The Star Wars prequels inspired a lot of discussion and debate, and at times even a lot of disagreement back in their day, from 1999 to 2005 and thereafter. People debated the creative merits of the Star Wars prequels, and there was a contingent of fans who were on one side who said, "No, you guys are missing it. These movies are they're actually great. They're actually quite brilliant." And then you had another contingent who thought that they were crap on a stick without the stick. And there was room for discussion. There was room for disagreement, for people to have different opinions about the exact same three movies. And the you just don't really see that with the Disney Star Wars sequels. Every defense I've ever seen of the Disney films, it always comes back to representation. It always comes back to diversity or this or that or the other thing. And asking a fan of the Disney Star Wars sequels to explain to you in a logical way why those movies are so brilliant without mentioning diversity, it's a lot like asking a Biden voter to explain to you why they support Biden without mentioning Trump. It's impossible. It seems that affection for the Star Wars sequels, it really does seem to come down to politically correct casting, and there's really not a logical and intellectual argument someone can make for the superiority of those movies. It really does come down to skin color. And just how shallow is that? But nevertheless, that does seem to be that does seem to be the go-to defense for the Disney Star Wars fans. And so I don't know. The proof is in the pudding. I just don't think people are going to be debating, 15 years from now. I just don't see people debating the creative merits of the Star Wars sequels. It just doesn't seem likely to ever be happening. People were doing it at the time the prequels were coming out. And the result of that is that a generation, basically millennials, grew up watching the prequels. And I'm not going to say that all millennials at all times and all places adore the prequels, but it seems like the prequel fan base is strongest among millennials, at least so far. And whereas the kids who are coming up now, the Zoomers, I guess, they they're just not as they don't seem to be as interested in Star Wars at all. I mean, for them, the Star Wars of their generation is the MCU, and So, like I say, I mean, 15 years from now, I guess somebody might be arguing the artistic merits and the overall worthwhileness of the Disney Star Wars films. It's not like I know everything. Maybe they will be, but I just don't see it happening. And as Star Wars fans, I mean, I honestly, I mean, I'm looking to the future, and what I think is we probably need to get comfortable with the idea of Star Wars eventually assuming a place in the cultural lexicon comparable to Planet of the Apes, because I just don't see things getting better anytime soon. Anyway, like I say, it's not like I know everything. Maybe I'm wrong, but either way, I'm CJ, and that's that. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, make sure you're still subscribed, comment, like, and share this video because it really helps me out. Also, you can find me on Twitter at Cole Loves Comics.